Hello, everyone. Tarek Fattal here from SBLive. It's the CIF Southern Section sit-down. Mater Dei is under a new era. Its football team has a new coach. His name is Raul Lara, and he's in studio with us to talk about his future as a Monarch. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Before we get into Mater Dei football, there's a lot to talk about there. I think people, hey, who is Raul Lara? We know you were at Long Beach Poly for a long time, a stop at Warren, if I'm not mistaken. You were at St. Anthony. You've done some big school, smaller school, big football, smaller football. And here you are at Mater Dei, a national power. But how did Raul Lara get there? Can you talk about you as a young person? Did you play football yourself, where you grew up? Anything you might want to share?
Well, a lot of people don't know this. I graduated at Long Beach Poly. So I graduated in 1984. My defensive coordinator at that time was Jerry Jaso. Obviously, Jerry became a pretty famous head coach over at Long Beach Poly. And so after Long Beach Poly, I went to Linfield College for 1 year. We actually won the national championship. Then I came back because I felt like it was a burden for my dad to pay tuition. And so I kind of sat out a year, made some money, and then went to Long Beach City College, played 1 year there, was an all South Coast linebacker. And then after that, played at UC Santa Barbara when I had a football team.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that's where I graduated from. And then right when I graduated, Jerry Jaso was the co-head coach with Thomas Whiting at Long Beach Poly, and he found out I just finished coaching. I had no intentions of becoming a coach at all. And so he asked me, hey, we need some help. Coaching, was wondering if you can help out with the JV group. So the first year I kind of did the JV group. The second year, then obviously he had me as a linebacker coach for the varsity team. And then next thing you know, Thomas Whiting left, and then Jerry Jaso became the head coach in '95. So Jerry asked me to be the DC. And then believe it or not, in 2001, I couldn't believe that he was really leaving, because he kept on telling me, I'm grooming you, I'm leaving, and this and that. I'm like, I don't want this job. You're crazy. And so when it ended up happening, we just, as a staff, didn't want too much to change. And so that's why I decided to go ahead and do it. And so in 2001, I became the head coach, and then obviously stayed there until 2013. I was supposed to go to UCLA. I was talking to Jim Mora at that time.
Wow.
But things after that kind of got us distracted. And so two schools went after me, and one of them was Warren High School. And then they were able to help two of my assistants that were at Long Beach Poly that I could never get them teaching jobs. So they were going to give them teaching jobs at Warren. And I told the guys, hey, let's do this for 5 years, and then you guys kind of take over, and here we go. And so after the 5th year, I stepped down, and again was trying to get to UCLA. Don Pelham was the linebacker coach, and at that time had me come up. We talked to Chip Kelly, but I guess Chip was already satisfied with his staff, so that didn't work out. So I decided to sit out a year, and that was right before COVID. And believe it or not, every football week, my wife and myself will go to a game on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and just to check different teams out and just kind of see what was happening. And I felt during that time that football was not being coached well. And I thought it was, a lot of these kids were getting the bad information, or just kind of being taught the things that they shouldn't have been taught. Because I firmly believe, since I got into coaching, it's a great tool to create strong men, strong leadership, and stuff like that. In fact, if it wasn't for the coaches that I had in my life, I wouldn't be here sitting here. And so again, just saw that. But the thing that I also knew, that I was getting ready to retire at this time. I was also a probation officer, and I was getting ready to retire. And in order for me to really make money, I had to go into the private sector. Every time, there was a couple of times during my poly career that I applied for private head coaching positions like Loyola, St. Paul, stuff like that. And it seemed to me every time I applied, it seemed like I had too much experience in the public sector and not enough in the private. And so one thing that you didn't mention earlier was after that year I sat out, I asked Troy Thomas at Servite.
That's right.
To be, hey, I'll be one of your assistants. I just kind of want to see what's going on with the private sector and this and that. And so I am so thankful for him allowing that to happen, because that's where really the connection of me and Mike Brennan happened. And then learned a lot under Troy, in a sense, for that 1 year. So he had me become his running back coach and offensive consultant with Sean Coley, which I think is an excellent offensive coordinator and a coach. And so again, learn. And then that's when Mike Brennan left and went to St. Anthony's, and then I became the head coach at St. Anthony, and it just kind of all fell in place.
As much as you can share or willing to share, talk about how that Mater Dei job came about for you. You're at St. Anthony. Mater Dei parts ways with Frank McManus. You take it from there.
Well, I think I need to speak on the first time it was open, because I applied for it and everything. So obviously when Rollinson stepped down, which I have tremendous respect for, I applied for the position. And so went through the interview process and everything and this and that. And I was obviously one of the last candidates to be selected. But obviously they went with Frank, which I think, whatever reason they did that. And then when it came to me the second time, I'm a firm believer of the man upstairs, Jesus Christ. And the thing that me and my wife, we're talking about is like, maybe God wants you there, maybe this is a push to go there, or whatever the case may be. So we prayed about it, had faith, took a step of faith and decided to take the position. Ever since then, obviously for me, it's a blessing and an honor to be a head coach at Mater Dei. It's been an awesome experience. It seems like it's just all falling in place. But again, we still got to have our season.
Of course.
That's when the real test happens. But I'm really happy with the group that we have. I feel like I have another team that I did at Long Beach Poly in 2001 when I have 5 All-Americans. This team has a lot of talent. So again, here we go. And then a crazy schedule, just like that first year at Poly. I had that scheduled game against De La Salle, that everybody considered a national championship game. And I feel like it's happening again here, even though, we still have Corona Centennial and we still have Kahuku. But, everybody's talking about the Bishop Gorman, but still we got to take care of some things before we even get there.
Got to touch on it real quick. The schedule, I know it's something I've reported on. Unfortunately, you only have 9 regular season games. We talked about this. You got hired in the spring. We both know it's nothing of your doing. I think people will go, hey, well, what's up, coach? How come you didn't get 10 games on the schedule? You got hired in, I believe, was March,
right,
way late in the game. So availability, maybe a little bit of programs not wanting to play you, but certainly a bummer that there's only 9 regular season games for your players.
Yeah, so when I did get hired was the end of April. So obviously late into the game. I already knew, oh man, we're not going to find any games around here because everybody already has a full schedule. But I did reach out to a couple of schools, and obviously hey, coach, we already got a game. So I couldn't find nothing down here. We did have some organizations to help us out nationally. The thing is, we didn't want to travel out. And so we were hoping that somebody would come in and play us. We did have some interest, but for whatever reason, it just didn't work out. And we're still looking, so it ain't over yet. So if something pops up, obviously, we will probably end up taking it. But again, I knew that was going to be an issue. In fact, I remember when I first got hired, I was speaking to the ADs, and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on? We're probably not going to end up finding a game here because we're really late in the game." And so I kind of knew that already, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I wanted to just touch on a little bit of what that Mater Dei, being a head coach at Mater Dei, entails. I asked you this at pretty much your official introduction. Media was there. You had a press conference. And I asked you, hey, coach, there's more to being a football coach here at Mater Dei that's on the field, the X's and O's. There's extra. I've always kind of said it takes a little bit of a politician's touch because of how big the program is. Can you talk about what that experience is like, maybe taking on meetings, doing media things like we're doing today? Can you touch on that?
Well, the thing that's really daunting to me is I've been coaching for 32 years. And as a head coach, I always was in charge of one side of the ball. I knew already ahead of time if I was to go to Mater Dei, that more than likely I would have to give that up and just kind of become a CEO and make sure things are running the way they're supposed to. Because, obviously it's a high profile school. Everybody wants to talk to you. You don't have time to deal with all that madness of being a coordinator for defense or offense. And so that was an adjustment for me. But I was truly blessed to inherit a very good staff.
A lot of players returning from the team that pretty much won everything last year, the CIF Southern Section Division I championship, the Open Division State championship. You are the #1 team in so many polls, both locally, nationally, regionally. We can go down the list. You've been there before, like you mentioned, as a Long Beach Poly coach. What's it like having to take everyone's best shot, from week 0? It's like a pass hasn't even been thrown and everyone is coming after you. What's that like? How do you prepare your young people for that?
Well, the thing is, I already know about that because I experienced this again in 2001 at Long Beach Poly. And obviously, by us being #1 in the beginning, it just puts a target on us. And so trying to get to kids to understand, look, guys, even the worst teams on our schedule are going to play their best against you. And so, again, it's just getting them to understand that, reminding them and stuff like that. So that's a big emphasis that we have right now with our team is making sure, hey, let's get it done. Stop, don't be lazy. Let's get going. We got people that are after us and stuff like that. So, but it's tough, because you're dealing with young kids.
Your expertise and your history as a probation officer, now football coach, how does that translate? How can you maybe get guys in line a little better than maybe another coach because of the experience you've got?
I just had lunch with the former commissioner of CIF, Rob Wygod.
Sure.
And the thing that he told me was he was very impressed. He goes, because back in the day, Poly was known to be rough and tough in the sense of not just on the football field, but kind of dealing with them and stuff like that. And he goes, so my second year as a head coach, I invited him to go to our Hawaii game against Kahuku. So he experienced what we were doing with these young men. And he came out of there very impressed. And he goes, ever since then, each team your teams were well disciplined. They behaved well. They act right. And, we're talking about, inner city schools.
Sure.
And so I really, it's good for me to hear that from him, because obviously it reaffirms that what we're trying to do with these young men, we're trying to do it the right way. And then obviously here at Mater Dei, we're doing the same thing, trying to get these guys to understand, hey, when you walk on a campus and go to class, be a leader. Don't be a problem, help your teachers out, get to know your teachers, stuff like that. Even get to know your peers that are going to school with you. Just trying to be a big difference. And so when they leave Mater Dei, they actually, glorify, the glory, love, and the stuff that, the honor that we kind of preach at Mater Dei is big for us.
When you're establishing culture, what are some of the key foundations to doing that? I know kind of a vanilla question, but every coach has a different answer.
I'm really big on brotherhood. And so obviously keeping each other accountable, making sure your brother next to you is doing what he's supposed to be doing and stuff like that. And so to me, when you work on the brotherhood, all that culture starts cultivating, and it goes outwards. The other thing too, I like to get as many people involved in the program. I love the parents when they're involved, the alumni is involved, everybody, because I believe it takes a village to raise these kids. I can't do it by myself. And so again, it's just, that's my culture, is try to bring this family atmosphere that everybody's involved and in tune and trying to help us become the best that we can be.
You got the players and the families that are thinking scholarship, 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 and sometimes that mindset trumps what's really going on with the team. How do you manage that as best as you can?
Well, again, to me, that the big thing is culture. What are you emphasizing? Is a player bigger than the program, or is the program the biggest? I'm saying nobody's bigger than the program. And so for me, if I cultivate that culture, all that's going to be in the back burner, but that's not the main emphasis. I sat down with a kid that is returning from us. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you his name.
Sure.
And the thing that he told me, he goes, "Oh, I hate this school." And I said, "You hate this school? What are you talking about?" And he goes, the only thing that I like is just playing football here. And I looked at him, but how do you hate school? I just don't like this school. And I told him, I said, then why are you playing here? I said, your high school years, you should not experience that at all. To be honest with you, maybe you do need to go to another school and just enjoy school and also enjoy playing football. And then he kind of looked at me, and his mom was kind of like staring at him too. And it was like, I'm serious about this. I mean, I don't know why you hate school. I mean, maybe you had some bad experiences and everything, but it shouldn't be that way. And believe it or not, I talked to him yesterday. We just started school on Monday, which today is Tuesday. And I asked him, how was your first day? He goes, Coach, actually, it was a whole lot better. And I think it was just talking to the kid and changing his mindset. And now, hey, come on, man, let's have fun. Let's have fun at school. And so, again, when you cultivate that culture, the one that I'm trying to do, family, and let's all be together and work for each other and stuff like that, all that other stuff is now kind of in the back burner. And so, but obviously we want the kids to go to the next level. So obviously we pushing that. I hired a coach, Rudy Cambero, that is my recruiting coordinator for all these colleges to make sure we keep connecting. But obviously Mater Dei, there's every school that's going there right now. So it's pretty easy, simple. And that's the other thing that I tell kids, look, you're at a platform where a lot of people are going to see you. So again, what are you going to display out there? So let's take advantage of it, and here we go.
How important is being at school, going to winter formal, prom, the stuff that kids are supposed to do? I'd imagine you encourage that stuff because those kids don't get those years back.
Yeah, like one thing that to me it's really changed a lot is obviously in my younger coaching career, a lot of these kids were playing different sports. That even has changed, because you got all this training going on off season and everything, and people are just focusing on one sport. And it's funny, I have a couple of parents that come up to me and, hey, Coach, how do you feel about two sports and this and that? In fact, I almost had a huge tight end that almost stepped down because he's a great pitcher. And I tell the parents, I said, look, I believe in high school, every kid should try all the sports as much as possible. I know when they start becoming like maybe juniors or seniors, then they have to kind of like, okay, you know what? Maybe this sport will help me get to where I need to get. And so I tell parents that. And then if there's two sports, like for instance, that the kid I was talking about, that's a great pitcher at Mater Dei. I told him, I said, look, man, if you need to leave or do something for baseball, just talk to me and we'll make it work and let's go. And so I think when he heard that, he felt real relieved because, because you do have other coaches that put a lot of pressure on them to play just that one sport. And so to me, again, I think they need to experience. So going back to your question regarding prom and this, the same thing. I mean, they're kids. This is only one time in a lifetime that you're going to be able to do this. So obviously, yeah, you need to do this. That's why it was dawning to me when that kid said, man, I don't like school. I like playing football here, but I don't like the school. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And it's like, no, you got to like everything. Everything's got to mesh. And so that's something that we're kind of really working hard on this year. But I really believe that the kids want that, if you understand what I'm saying.
Sure.
And so it's kind of neat seeing how that's changing a little bit.
What kind of football does Raul Lara coach?
Well, obviously I like to be disciplined. And, make disciplined and smart, understanding the situations. When we run our practices, we just don't run plays and just do things. We always have a certain game situation because I want them kids to understand when they go into the game, oh, shoot, we did this in practice already, and so nothing is surprising. So again, obviously smart players, disciplined players. We work hard on, like if kids are jumping or illegal procedures and stuff like that, we get them right there. And I'm not just talking about the one player, the whole team. And so just they understand that part. So that's something that we're working really hard right now. We just had a scrimmage not too long ago against ourselves, an inter-squad scrimmage, and I was very pleased. We had a 7-man crew out there with referees and stuff, and the referees were very informative and before our scrimmage. They helped our kids understand what they're looking at and stuff like that. And so the understanding of how to play in front of referees too. So again, definitely discipline, being smart. But my number one thing is be physical. I'm a real weight room guy, and the kids know that. And I think that's where you really build teams, is in the weight room.
Maybe an opportunity to highlight some players, if that's something that you are high on. Immediately, some players that jumped out at you at Mater Dei that you go, okay, that's a violent guy that gets after it.
Well, there's no doubt, and I think he was Defensive Player of the Year, and that's Nazir White. Tremendous ability. I never seen a guy come off the line of scrimmage so fast, and so that's it. That's definitely a person to look at. I like Abdul playing the middle linebacker or playing inside backer. He does a lot. We got two great corners, Chuck and Darius. I mean, we can go on and on. I got young kids that are pretty good. Tumu at defensive line, Simi at defensive line. And I'm just thinking about defense right now, because the defense has been hell for us the last ever since we've been in pads.
Can't get an offensive rep going, man. They're blowing everything up.
It's incredible. And then on the offensive side, every guy on the offensive line, even our second deep guys, they look pretty good. Wheela's the leader out of that group, and then Jordan at running back. You mentioned Dash at quarterback. And so, and then the receivers, we're pretty loaded with Marcus Harris, and then
Dixon Wyatt.
Yeah, Dixon Wyatt, and then the new kid that came over during the offseason, Chris Henry.
Okay? Talk about him. He's the number one prospect in the 2026 class. Obviously has a NFL lineage, things of that nature. And I haven't seen him in person, but you watch videos on him, and you're talking about a big athlete.
The thing that's impressive with me, he definitely athleticism. He's got it. He's a tall, big kid, but I just love him as a person. The kid is a nice, good kid, and I'm just hoping the best for him, And so again, but athletically, he's just one of the top guys. I mean, just like the other two receivers that we just mentioned, with them three guys out there. Okay, pick your guy. Which one are you going to try to double? And then here we go. We'll see what happens.
Who's the best high school football player you've ever coached against, and who's the best high school football player you've ever coached up until now?
Okay, so the best player I ever coached against, I know definitely when you said that, Matt Goodygood just comes into mind.
The epitome of a football player, right, Coach?
Yeah, it's like, and it's funny because the previous year when we played him in the championship, Herman Ho-Chang did that to Mater Dei. And I believe that's when Matt was young and saw that and came back with vengeance and did that remarkable championship game against us. And that's when I was the defensive coordinator. So when a running back gets 200-something yards on you, you're kind of like, oh, God. But anyway, that was a great performance by him, obviously. But when people ask me that's one thing definitely I mention. And then what's the best person or the best athlete
you've coached?
I tell people this all the time. There's many of them. Each guy is kind of different. Deshaun was great. Mercedes Lewis was great. Herschel Dennis was great. But I tell people the guy that I probably had the most fun, and I'm gonna back a story up on this.
Sure.
Is Juju Smith. Juju Smith, character-wise, personality, is the most enjoyable kid I ever had. So he was getting highly recruited his senior year, and there was times that he was being flown to these certain colleges. So we just ended playing Compton. He asked, can I leave, after the game and fly out and go to, I think it was Michigan or something like that.
And you got the first round of the playoffs coming up.
And then we had the first round of the playoffs coming up, and I told him, I said, look, if by any chance you get held up or anything on Monday, you need to give me a call. Because if you don't, then I'm going to have to, obviously suspend you or whatever. So what ended up happening, that Monday happened, and the boy never called me. And so obviously he came on Tuesday, and I said, look, man, the first half you're not going to play. And but the thing that he understood the punishment, and this is Juju. So all week he coaches the kid that takes his spot. That first quarter, he's coaching the kid that took his spot. I mean, literally, that's the kind of kid he was. And long story short, I think Orange Lutheran was it was a close game in the second half, or we were a little bit behind or something like that. I just can't remember, but I know it was at least a close game. So after the second half, first play in the second half,
Right.
Juju goes in, catches the ball, touchdown. I'm like, okay, and then we started winning the game.
Okay.
But the thing about Juju, he's a special kid. One of our Mater Dei practices, Eric Behenemy came out there. As you know, he's the offensive coordinator for UCLA. But at the time, he was also the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs when he had Juju. He asked me that same question. I told him that there's many guys, but Juju was special in the sense of how he behaved. And he goes, Coach, you're giving me goosebumps because I'm going to tell you this right now. That kid is the best kid I ever coached to. And that's Juju. That's something about him personality-wise. He just has it. And it's pretty neat to experience the relationship that we have with him. Yeah.
What's always the common denominator with a great player?
The it factor. Like, they know they're pretty good, in the sense of getting stuff done when it needs to get done. That's what I see. And then obviously how all of the teammates look to that person to kind of, okay, let's see what he's going to do kind of thing. That's what I see.
Mater Dei football, St. John Bosco football, I mean, the big-time football powerhouses here in Southern California. There seems to be players that transfer in and out all the time. As a head coach, you get a little bit of that. People assume, okay, well, that coach is out there recruiting players. I mean, you get that a lot. You've been dealing with high-level football for a long time. How do you deal with kind of the perspective of what could look like a revolving door, though it might not be? But transfers in general, how is it you handle something like that, especially at Mater Dei?
Well, when I was at Long Beach Poly, that's what everybody was saying, that, all these kids are transferring in and this and that and that and this. And if you look at our roster at Long Beach Poly, not that many kids transferred in. Now, the thing that a lot of people need to understand, when a program is doing real well, obviously that program itself recruits itself. So, people, parents, kids,
they want to be part of it.
You don't have to go after people, especially when you're doing it right. When I got the head job at Mater Dei, the rumor was that 20 of our guys were going to transfer out.
Yes.
Okay. And so I'm like, if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. It's like whatever. Because I feel like Mater Dei is going to get good players. Are they going to get the best players? I'm pretty sure we will get best players, but we're going to get good players. So what I'm indicating here is, now let's coach them up. Let's bring that team culture. Let's develop these kids and stuff like that. And that's what I've been all about. And if you look at our poly years, that's what we've done. And that's what I did at Warren. Because Warren, when I stepped into Warren, Warren was 0-31. They haven't won a game in like 2.5 years. So my first year, we ended up being 5-5. And then the second year, we tied league with Dominguez and Downey. So again, I didn't get an influx of transfers. It was just, okay, let's develop these kids, and here we go. At St. Anthony's, the same thing. Everybody was kind of shocked that that first year that I had, we kind of started off slow, got hired real late, later than this one. I was hired in June to take the St. Anthony's job. So I only had a 1 month to kind of change and put our system in. And we started, I think, 0-3. And then the next thing you know, we're in the Division 10 CIF championship. And everybody's like, shocked. But that, again, we didn't get no transfers in. We just developed the kids and, just kept on coaching, and here we go. And I think that's what it's all about. I'm looking for kids that want to work hard, that want to get good grades, and want an opportunity to play in the next level. And if I got that desire of that kid, then it's our job to coach that kid up, and here we go.
The playoff system for high school football, it's gotten a lot of different opinions, good, bad. Some people like it. Some people think that the playoff system in Division I should just be the four teams, you know, that there's this apparent line between the top 4 big dogs or what have you and the rest. Some people think, you know what? No, that's high school football. Make every division 16 teams and let's have at it. You know, I'm curious on what you see out there, what opinions you might have on the playoff system.
I like the old ways, where it was 16 each division, and here we go. I know, and it was funny because I was just talking to somebody about this. I know when I was at Poly, especially in the early 90s, Mater Dei was the top team, and they were kicking our butts literally. And alls I know is in 96, when they kicked our butts in the CIF semifinal, and we had a young group, so we had that whole group come back. Our whole off season, everything going into that season, preseason, league, it was all about Mater Dei. Go back and let's play Mater Dei. And I don't feel like there's not enough coaches that really want to be that top
kind of
guy.
harness that.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, and I think that's why you have that line. And again, to me, it's just like, okay, let's try to get to that top.
We had Jason Negro, the head coach at St. John Bosco, on last season, and he basically complimented Mater Dei. Like, if it weren't for Mater Dei, we wouldn't be what we are.
Yep.
And it became this kind of race to the top.
Right.
And I think that kind of echoes what you're talking about,
same
where
thing
it's
happened
like,
to us, yeah.
you know what, I'm not just going to accept being a lower level. I want to try and get to the top. Now, that's not always realistic for every program. There are programs where Division III and Division IV, you just mentioned St. Anthony got to Division 10, probably the perfect level for that program at the time you took over and so on. So everyone's got their weight class, so to speak. Just always curious on what coaches think about that, because there are these programs. I know a couple years ago, Simi Valley High School, now Jim Bankert's over there. Yorba Linda had like a generational team, went 10-0. There was a couple other teams that had these great years. Palos Verdes last year was 10-0. Guy Gardner had a great team, and they almost play themselves into a division that's maybe a little too strong for them. And I don't know if you feel bad for those teams, but it does make you look at the system and go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Is it possible that they just have a different level?
Yeah.
Any response to that?
Well, again, back in the days that I was playing at Poly, there was different divisions, and it was based on enrollment of the school, stuff like that. The way CIF is doing it now, by rankings. So if we're doing it by rankings, okay, the first 16, D1, next 16, D2, and I just don't understand what we're doing up on top,
right?
In a sense of, why is it just a couple of teams, and stuff like that? Because again, when back in the 90s, we were shooting to try to be the best up on top. So, and we were able to do it a little bit. So.
Fair enough. So, okay, so you're kind of saying those top elk teams that are kind of hovering in that top 16, top 20 range, they should be trying to chop to the top.
I think so.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Coach, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. We covered a variety of topics. You coached Mercedes Lewis, man.
Oh, yeah.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Speaking on that, so funny. They just, I just did I was able to speak when they presented him the Long Beach Key. And the thing that I told everybody, I said, look, you guys have to understand something here. And this is weird. Mercedes played his senior year for me in 2001. So he graduated from Poly 2002. It's 2024 right now, and he's still in the NFL.
Remarkable.
It's crazy.
He's an anomaly.
Think about it.
Yeah. I mean, he's like, I was gonna say he's like LeBron. I don't know about that, but in that, in kind of just the longevity.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
And the amount of effort he puts to just keep his body able to just be out there, let alone perform or whatever the case may be, is remarkable.
Well, the funny thing is I haven't seen him in a while, so when I shook his hand, I'm like, Mercedes, you still look like a senior.
Yeah.
And it's like, you hadn't even
Man, you look
at
good.
Yeah.
You look like the 18-year-old I was coaching back in the day. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, I really appreciate the time. Thank you for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you for inviting me.
Raul Lara from Mater Dei. He's got his debut season coming up here in 2024. They've got big-time games on the schedule, one being, as he mentioned earlier in the episode, Bishop Gorman. Could that potentially be the national title game? We don't know. We'll have to wait till the end of the year. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tarek Fattal from SBLive, scorebooklive.com for all your news, standings, schedules, and everything on high school sports. Thanks for watching again.